Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and today we're going to talk about the secret oasis of Japanese Pokemon cards. A lot of people romanticize Japan and they think you can find these cards just lying around the tall grass with Pidgeys. I even thought that myself when I got back into collecting. I remember messaging Japanese sellers, hey, can you go down the street and buy me a trophy card? But in reality, that's not how it is, and what we're going to do here is just talk about what you can expect when buying from Japan versus buying from eBay. So one of my early smpratte terms or smpratisms was restricted markets versus open markets. It's just an easy starting point, how to understand the opportunity in different markets that you're going to buy or sell in. And restricted markets are just something that has more restrictions and less accessibility, where an open market is something that has less restrictions and more accessibility. And it's just a really easy way to understand, the opportunity of what to expect. So, even if you don't do Pokemon, something like a garage sale is going to be much different than like a Walmart. When you go to Stacy's garage sale, the prices are going to be lower, the selection is going to be lower, the reach and accessibility is going to be lower and more limited. Or something like Walmart, they have a website, they have, employees, they have a brand, etc., etc. You get the idea. So therefore, each market has a different complexion. So when you're trying to figure that out for Pokemon, what that looks like in Japan is there are a lot more restrictions trying to buy from Japan. And a good way to understand this is there's two main sites I think people use, Yahoo Japan and Mercari. And we're just going to go through and talk about, how you get into those sites, how you use them and, what you can expect. So number one, don't come in with any assumptions that you have from eBay because most of them won't apply. Starting with, you cannot search cards in your own language. Unless your language is Japanese, you cannot search the card. I don't care how much of a polyglot you are and how many languages you can speak. If it's not Japanese, it's not going. It's not going to happen. So number one, you have to search in Japanese characters. You can't just type Pikachu, Stonks, special delivery Charizard. Nothing's going to come up. So you have to type in the Japanese characters. A lot of people just, Control C, Control V from Google and then, search and look through the results. But that's what you have to do, just right out of the gate. You can't search in English or any other language. On top of that, you need a middleman. You cannot use Yahoo Japan or Mercari without a middleman. And that is another barrier. Inherently, it takes more time. You have to go through somebody else. Like, this is just another restriction on restriction. And most of them, with that said, most of them are very streamlined. Like Bai, in my opinion, is right now killing it. I used to use Nopin for a long time. The guy who runs that, give him a free little plug here. Very nice guy. Just offers a great service, but in reality, something like Bai has moved with the time, and the convenience they offer is unparalleled. So when you go through using one of these main middleman services, it's pretty streamlined, but again, you cannot use or buy any of this stuff without going through a middleman. Another big one attached to that, this one's huge. You cannot message sellers. And you probably don't want to, because a lot of the responses are not going to benefit you. I remember in Patreon, somebody asked me recently, is it worth messaging a seller because they want to, come down the price? And there's like a famous meme that's like posted on Discord a lot from a Japanese seller who responded. Someone was like, hey, could you knock like $100 off the price of this card or whatever? And they just said, go buy it from another seller at that price. So they do not negotiate, outside of just the message barrier. You literally cannot message them, even through middlemen. A lot of middlemen don't offer messaging services unless it's something like, condition or adding another photo, little things like that. But even with middlemen, a lot of them really don't like doing certain types of messages. So therefore, it's another thing you cannot expect. We're on eBay, social media, we're used to just wheeling and dealing. So it's like twofold. You can have, on the US side, you can talk to people, but also people are more willing to deal. Where in Japan, both of those don't really exist the same way. You can't have that direct access. And even if you do have some type of access, it's not the same mentality. The culture is different over there. And of course, I'm speaking in generalities here, but that's what you can expect is most of the time, you're not going to have the outcome. If anything, a lot of people who get through a message something like, hey, we go down on price, it usually doesn't benefit them. Again, this is just like statistical averages that I'm using here. So there you go. You cannot message sellers literally and figuratively. It's not a thing you can do. On top of that, there's other little things as well, like there's certain price points. So like if you use like Bai before, they have a certain threshold where they'll allow you to bid. And, if you do more business with them, typically they extend that. But overall, there is a barrier, and that usually falls around the $10,000 mark. And what you'll see usually, and I'll just be very candid with you, I honestly don't mess with a lot of the auctions above 10K anymore. I literally wait for the person who wins it, gets it overseas, wherever they are, and I'm like, hey, what do you want for it? That's what I do at this point, because it's just such a cumbersome process, because you have to put funds in. The thing I was explaining is that you have to put money in before you even bid. So if you lose, you take all that money back, you lose on exchange rates, you just basically pay for nothing. Like, you end up paying fees. And of course, the higher you go, because naturally 10,000 and above is typically the higher end of this market, you're going to accrue like higher fees. So it's extremely cumbersome to buy anything over 10K, which is why you see a difference in price of things in Japan versus US, which we'll get into that later on in the video. But one other thing, a big one, can't forget about this one. Remember when I said don't take any assumptions from eBay and assume them over in Japan? There's no buyer protection. Like, when I say no buyer protection, I'm not exaggerating whatsoever. There is zero buyer protection. If you end up getting a Pidgey instead of a Pikachu, that's what you got. You know, that's it. There's nothing you can do. Now, of course, if you went through PayPal, you can burn that bridge and open up a case, but that'll be the end of your account. But ultimately, there is absolutely no buyer protection. Now, I will say, this is anecdotal. By and large, majority of the experiences I've had in Japan are more than fine. I really don't have much worry buying in any market, but I'm definitely more confident buying on eBay. You know, even if I see like a Charizard Baller 69 or, you know, 420 Triple X, just vape it. Like, if I see one of those guys, I know I'm good, because I have that, like, that 2-layer protection if you have eBay and PayPal, where in Japan you don't have that. And especially when you're applying that to like higher end stuff, I wouldn't even say it's about, like, you know, someone straight scamming you. It's more about certain issues, like you paid $10, $15, $20,000 for this card because you thought it was mint, and then it comes in, it has like 3 indents or something like that. You're just out of luck. You can't do anything. And again, like, you can burn that bridge, do an I'm not subscribed, but, you know, your account will be nuked. So that's what you're looking at, and just trying to, you know, throw out some examples of like what people have experienced in those unfortunate situations where they have to, you know, open a claim or do something because it's not as described. You just can't have that expectation. Like, if you get something that's not as described, you either just, you deal with it or you burn that bridge. There's no actual protection. So that's what you can expect. So what I just went through there is mainly what you can look for Yahoo Japan, which again, that's like the main restricted market. There's also Mercari, which in my opinion, Mercari's not as good as Yahoo. Like, I'd prefer more things to be on Yahoo, and then of course prefer all of it to be on eBay. But with Mercari, it's even less immediate. So for example, if you go and hit a buy it now listing on Yahoo through your middleman, it's over with. Like, it automatically ends it. Where if I do the same thing on Mercari, it doesn't end until that middleman service is manually there to say, okay, we're buying it. So that's the difference with Mercari. It's not automated to that point, at least as I'm making this video. So you'll have to basically wait, and it'll take time. Also, I would just look at it as like a digital garage sale, where Yahoo is more like a low-key eBay. Like, Yahoo's like eBay in 1999, and their website has not been updated since 1999, so they're true to it. And it's just basically like old school eBay. Like, you have businesses on there, you have, you know, just random guys on there selling their cards or whoever, where Mercari is pretty much just like random people garage sale, digital garage sale type thing. Again, like, Yahoo has actual auction houses, businesses. Like, there's certain sellers on there people know that are always doing like consignments, you know, auction blocks or whatever every single week. Where on Mercari, it's just like, okay, you don't know what's going on, but that doesn't mean, you know, there's definitely opportunity there. It's just a different expectation. Now, comparing that, the takeaway from all this, going back to like restricting markets and open markets, when you compare that with something like eBay, the easiest way to understand is like contrasting all of those with eBay. Like, eBay has more exposure, global visibility. Those Japanese sites are less. And then you have, of course, direct access as well. It's basically the opposite of everything we went through for Yahoo. On eBay, you just message someone and say, hey, can you give me another photo? Even like, will you accept an offer? You know, whatever. You have direct access to that. You know, it's one of those things where not only you can access like the sellers or whoever, you can search in your own language. You know, there's so many eBay platforms that cater to each specific region, where again, Japan is not catering to anyone. On top of that, you also have, of course, buyer protection, which is huge. And it's also one of those things on eBay where they work on it. I was joking about the site not being updated in 1999 in Yahoo or Yahoo Japan, but that's true. Like, nothing has really changed since the 90s, where with eBay, you see movements here and there. Like, even now in 2021, they're more aware of collectibles. They treat collectibles better. They have better rules that are more realistic for the landscape of collectibles. Point being is they adapt eventually, slowly but surely. they move with the tide, and one of those things is buyer protection. So it's basically the opposite of what you expect with eBay. Now, that doesn't mean, with all that said, that Japan is somehow an oasis. That's always the thing people think. It's like, okay, well, people talk about buying from Japan, flipping it over on eBay, which you can absolutely do that. There's definitely a lot of items or certain categories that are under optimized, and collectibles aren't an extremely efficient market, and you can go buy stuff from Japan, flip it over on eBay or wherever, and that's definitely a thing. But you could also do that on eBay. I flipped plenty of things on eBay, bought things on eBay that I just held, done whatever with. There's opportunity all the time, and you can have deals everywhere. But I would say the biggest risk you're looking at when you're trying to go into the Japanese market is that condition dependency, because that's really what makes or breaks a lot of your purchases. When you're talking about things like this, like the Charizard Stonk I've had just quietly in the background of my videos here, this is something where, obviously, if you buy it in Japan, it's the ground floor. That's your big edge when you're buying from Japan. Brand new stuff like that, you probably can't beat the price unless the Japanese seller is just doing the same thing on eBay. But the point is that majority of what you're buying vintage-wise, the big moves, you're heavily dependent on condition. And again, when you go through all those parameters, no buyer protection, things like that, you're adding risk. So therefore, when you do snag that deal, it's because there's probably more risk involved. That's always the mixture you're dealing with. Like, you just can't escape that reality. Like, risk is opportunity shadow, period. Like, it's attached to it. And that's definitely true for Japan. So in closing, the last thing I want to talk about in this conversation, for people who still think like Japan is this oasis of Pokemon, there's always opportunity everywhere. You definitely can find some things. But overall, the objective answer is market value is on the side of eBay. The most open market is naturally going to have the highest on average price points, i.e. market value, because it has the most exposure. It's just a better sample of what people are willing to pay. Now, of course, you can have cards that go for more in Japan on occasion. Markets aren't inherently binary in black and white, but if you have to make a general true distinction, 100% eBay is going to be the reflection of market value, especially when you tie in those points like the $10,000 limit and barrier. There are a lot of items that people will literally buy over that price point, $10, $20, $50, $100,000, put them on eBay, or just even show and say, hey, I got this card, and it's out the door. We've seen that countless times. And the easiest way for people who still don't think that's true, there's a reason why everyone's buying from Japan and selling on eBay and not the reverse. Nobody's buying from eBay and taking it over to Japan, because in reality, these restricted markets, because of all those barriers, all those roadblocks, there's less people, competing, there's less people there, and that provides more buying opportunity sometimes for certain cards. And that's why you have that dichotomy where a lot of people buy from Japan, sell it overseas. And again, it's not always a cakewalk. Some things are easier than others. Some things, like this guy right here, are about as obvious as it gets. But there's a lot of, nuance of like condition, reprints, etc., variants, all that stuff. So you still have to have all that knowledge at the end of the day. And, stuff like this is, no matter what market it is, no matter what garage sale, Yahoo, Mercari, eBay, it doesn't matter. Stuff like this is rare worldwide. Again, rarity is inherent. It doesn't matter what marketplace it is. It's still rare, no matter where you are. It's like, if a tree falls in the forest, this card's still rare. It just doesn't matter. So that's the closing point I want to make, is that the market value is going to be on the side of eBay and Yahoo, and then they can have, those one-off type auctions that do well. But again, when the market is more open to more people, that's going to be market value. And when it's more restricted, inherently with less people, usually that means the prices and value is restricted as well. So there you go. Hopefully that was a good rundown. I get a lot of questions all the time, and I try to smush them all together, just turn them into a little ditto blob. I try to combine them and make one topic that really hits a lot of them. A lot of people are asking me about, Japanese Oasis, the gold mine of Japanese cards. What's it like buying from Japan? So hopefully that gives you a good overview on what to expect. But the deal, guys. Let me know how you feel, and that's pretty much it. Till next time.